In this video, we are going to look at the last part for the mathematics paper 1 for the 2017 GCE or internal. Now here we'll just look at question 21 up to 23. So let's look at question 21. Write the four inequalities that define the unshaded region R on the XY plane below. So the unshaded region R is this region, which is known as the feasible region, or the region that we want. So the outside region, this region, is the unwanted since it is shaded. Now, when writing the inequalities, you can begin with any of the line. So it's not like it's not strictly. So, but we'll begin with or I advise you to begin with the lines that touches only one axis. So we'll begin with this line here. We'll consider this one as number 2, 3. Then we'll have our fourth inequality. Then after that, we can now look at the first one. So the first one, this line here. So this line is cutting the y-axis. Now we can see that at -1. So after we've indicated where it is cutting the axis, so let's look at the two regions. So the shaded one is less, then the upper is greater. So we are looking for the greater. So we use greater than or equal to. So this is our first inequality. Then our second inequality, we can see this line, the line that I've indicated with the number 2. So this one is cutting the x-axis at 2. So we have 2 here. Now let's look at the region of consideration. The greater region is shaded, then the less is unshaded. So we want the less. Now since this line is in dotted, we are just going to use less than. We are not going to put the equal to sign. Then let's look at the third one. So the third one is cutting the y-axis at 3. So 3 here. Then we'll consider the upper is greater, the lower is less. So from the diagram, we can see that the shaded is greater. So the wanted region is less, so we use less than or equal to 3. Now for the last one, we can see that it is cutting on two axes, the x and the y axis. So let's find the coordinates. So we have here, this is -2, 0. Then the other one here, this is 0, 2. So in the x-axis, it's number, 0, which is -2, 0, while in y-axis is 0, number, which is 0, 2. Then after finding the coordinates, we know that we are solving for the equation of the straight line, and the formula for the equation of the straight line is this one: y minus y1 is equal to gradient, open brackets, x minus x1. Or if you want, you can use the same, but where instead of putting the gradient symbol, you use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So for this formula, it means you are finding everything at once. Now for this one, first we need to find the gradient first. Then you can also use where you have y is equal to mx plus c. Even this one can be applied. Now let's look at let's find the gradient. So gradient is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we'll consider this pair as x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's do now the substitution. So from the numbers, y2 is 2 minus y1 is 0 over x2 is 0 minus x1 is negative 2. So 2 minus 0 is 2. Negative times negative is positive. Then 2, which is 2 into 2, we can say that our gradient is 1. So y minus y1 is 0 is equal to the gradient is 1. x1 is negative 2. So y minus 0 is just y. 1 open bracket x minus times c minus, we get positive 2. So if we now expand, 1 times x is x plus 1 times 2 is 2. Now if we go back to this line, the upper region, the shaded one, is greater, so we want the less. So the final answer is y is less than or equal to x plus c 2. Or if we want, we can use this formula: y minus c, y1 is 0, y2 is 2, minus c 0, x2 is 0, minus c negative 2, then x minus c negative 2. So if we do 1 minus 0 is just y, 2 minus 0 is 2 over 2, then x negative times negative, we get positive 2, which is here we have 1 x plus c 2. So we can see that we are getting the same answer, which is y less than or equal to x plus c 2. Okay, so now we move on to question 22. The diagram below shows a sketch of the graph y is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 8, cutting the x-axis at B and C, and we have been given this graph here. Okay, so we have the x-intercept. So the x-intercept is where the graph is cutting the x-axis, so we can say that we have B and C. Now let's look at the first question: find the coordinates of B and C. So we are just solving for x-intercept. So how do we solve the x-intercept of a quadratic equation? So we can use the maybe quadratic formula, or if we want, we can use the factorization. Now for the sake of revision, let's solve the same question using two methods. We'll first begin by using the quadratic formula. So let's begin. So we'll begin with x squared minus 6x plus 8 is equal to, where there is y, we put 0 because the value of y in the x-axis is 0. Now we know that the coefficient of x squared is a, then x is just b, then we have c. Then quadratic formula, x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So we can now substitute. We know that the value of a is the number in front here is 1, b is this number negative 6, c is this number which is positive 8. Okay, so x is equal to minus our b, we can see that our b is negative 6, even here negative 6 now squared, minus our a is 1, our c is 8 over 2 times 1. So negative times negative, we have positive 6 plus or minus. Then negative 6 squared is negative 6 times negative 6, which is positive 36. Then here we have minus 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 8 is 32 over 2 times 1 is 2. So x is equal to 6 plus or minus 36 minus 32, we get 4 over 2. Then we can now find the square root So the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2 over 2. Then upon reaching here, we need to separate these into two equations. So one will have a positive and the other one will have a negative. So we have x is equal to 6 plus 2 over 2. Then the other one will be 6 minus 2 over 2. So let's deal with the first equation. 6 plus 2 is 8 over 2, which is x is equal to 4. The other one will be 6 minus 2 is 4 over 2. 2 into 4 is just 2. So these are the two x-intercept. Now let's solve the same values, but let's try to use the factorization method. So the point is here is you need to use the method that you are comfortable with. So let's solve using now factorization method. So for us to find the factorization method, first we need to solve for product. So product is found by multiplying a times c. So a is 1, c is 8, 1 times 8 is 8. Then sum is the negative number, so the negative means the negative number for b, which is negative 6. Then we need factors, two numbers that we can multiply to give us 8 and added to give us negative 6. Now let me see if I can give you a hint. So the hint here is if you have a positive product while the negative sum, the two factors will have negative. So that is the point that I can give you. So we are expecting two negative numbers. So how can we find these two negative numbers? So the best way is we are going to use the 8. We are going to use 8. So we'll begin first by using 1. So 1 into 8. 1 into 8 is 8. So if we multiply 1 times 8 is 8. But if we add 1 plus 80, will not give us this number. So let's try the other one. Let's try 2. 2 into 80 is 4. So 2 times 4, we know that 2 times 4 will give us 8. If we add 2 plus 2 will give us 6, so which is negative 2 minus 4 will give us negative 6. So the two factors are negative 2 and negative 4. So we can now proceed with our question. So x squared minus 2x minus 4x plus 8 is equal to 0. And you can see that if you add these, must add up to negative 6x, because negative 2x minus 4x is equal to negative 6x. So let's factorize now this by grouping together. So let's factorize the first. So x is common. Now x into x squared is x minus x into 2x, we have negative 2. Now here negative 4, we'll consider negative 4 to be the common factor here, so that if we divide negative 4 into negative 4x, we get x. Then negative into this positive, we have negative 4 into 80 will give us 2 is equal to 0. So you can see that these two are the same, so we are okay. Then you will take 1, so we'll get 1. We'll factorize now this common factor, so x minus 2. Then this one will form a pair. This will give us x minus 4 is equal to 0. So then we can equate each to 0. So x minus 2 is equal to 0. X minus 4 is equal to 0. So if we shift this number to this side, we get x is equal to positive 2. Then if this moves to that one, x is equal to positive 4. So we can see that we are getting the same values. Now we can now go back to our question. So we are finding for B. So we want to find the coordinates for B and C. Now remember, in the x-axis, y is 0. So y is 0. So the between B and C, one must have 2 and the other 4. So from the diagram, we can see that from this point, B is closer to 0. So B will go with the the smaller number, which is 2. Then our C will go with 4. So these are the coordinates for B and C. Now let's look at question B. Find the coordinates of the turning point of the graph. So if we are to draw the axis of symmetry here, we can see that we are passing through the turning point. So the turning point is where the quadratic graph is turning either maximum or minimum. So we want the y coordinate and the x coordinate. So let's look at the formula. So the formula is the x coordinate is equal to negative b over 2a. So let's substitute. B is negative 6 over 2 times 1. So if we now expand negative times negative, we get positive 6 over 2. 2 into 6 is 3. So this means that here we have a 3. And it's making sense since B was 2 and C was 4 from these two coordinates that we earlier found. So if we have the x coordinate, we need to find the y coordinate. So the y coordinate, we are solving for this number, so we are expecting to have a negative number. So y is equal to 4ac minus b squared over 4a. So this is the formula. So y is equal to 4, what's our a? 1, c is 8, minus negative 6 squared over, what's our a? Is 1. So 4 times 1 times 8 is 36. This 32. Remember, this negative sign should not change, because negative 6 times negative 6, so the inside will give us the positive 36 over 4. So if we subtract the numerator, will give us negative 4 over 4, which is 4 into 4 is negative 1. So this is our y coordinate, and it's making sense because here we are expecting to have a negative number. So the coordinates for the turning point TP will be equal to 3 for the x, negative 1. Okay, so now we move on to question last. The diagram below shows the speed time graph of 100 meters sprinter who accelerates uniformly for 3 seconds until he reaches a speed of 12 meters per second. He maintains the speed for 7 seconds and then uniformly retards for a further 4 seconds and comes to a stop. So we have this diagram for the speed time graph. So we are told that in the y-axis represents the speed, then in the x-axis represents the time that was elapsed. Now let's look at the first question. The first question is we want to calculate the acceleration during the first 3 seconds. So it's this acceleration that we want, or the acceleration for this line. So the acceleration for this line is positive. Then the formula so the formula, acceleration is equal to final minus initial over time taken. So now for final we get from here, this is our final. Then for initial we get it from here. So for final velocity, we can see that then there is a number 12 here minus the initial is 0 over time taken is 3. Then we can do math. 12 minus 0 is 12 over 3 into 12, that is 4. Then the units are meters per second squared. Now let's move on to question B. We are calculating the retardation at the end of his race. So the retardation is this line here. We can see that it's slanting down. So our acceleration here will be minus. Now let's look at the initial and the final. How do we get the initial for a retardation part? So the initial is this one. Then our final is this one. So the formula is the same. Acceleration is equal to final minus initial over t. So the final here, whenever an object or a person comes to a stop, the final is always 0, since that person has stopped moving. So the final is 0. So don't get 14. No, 14 represents the time. Or we can move in this direction, so we see that the final is 0. Minus the initial. The initial is this number 12 over the time taken from here up to here. So we can now find the difference between 14 and 10. This will give us 4. So 0 minus 12 is negative 12 over 4. 4 into negative 12, so we have negative 3 meters per second. So the negative means that the speed is decreasing. Now let's look at question D. We are looking for distance covered in the first 10 seconds. So let's maybe draw. So this is the distance that we are solving for. And from this distance, we can see that we are dealing with a trapezium. So now for a trapezium like this one, this distance is height, then the smaller one on top is A, then we have this B here. The formula for a trapezium, distance is equal to half A plus B multiplied by H, or it's the same as the A plus B times H over 2. So we can now do substitution. So we have half A is the number from here up to here. So you need to go in the x-axis. What number is between 3 and 10? So you can just subtract 3 from 10, it will give us 7. So our A is 7. Then our B is the distance from here up to here. So we just get 10. Then the height is from this point up to here. So the height is this one. So we have 12. So we can add 7 plus 10 is 17. Then 2 here is 1, 2 here is 6. So we can now multiply. 6 times 7 is 42. We carry the 4. Then 6 times 1 is 6 plus 4, 10. So we have 102 meters. So this is how we can find the answer. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.